Hello, and welcome to Community Development Training for Hub Leaders within the National Community Hubs program in SA. My name is Lee Goodenough. I'm going to be providing some information on community development in the Hubs context. It's going to be based on my 10 or 11 years of experience working in community development within Lutheran Community Care and also at Kilburn Community Centre with the City of Port Adelaide Enfield in South Australia. What we're going to be covering in this training is really a summary of principles and practices involved in community development. It's a very broad topic. I'm not really going to cover absolutely everything that can be covered. It's an introductory course. It's really designed primarily for people coming into a hub leader role who just need to brush up on the basics of community development. If you've had a background in community development, probably none of this is going to be any news to you, but hopefully it's interesting to watch all the same. The training is set in the Australian context for community development. The reason I've pointed that out is that in the countries where community development is practiced, it is quite different in different nations. So if you go online and look up resources or information on community development from other countries, say the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, there are differences to the kind of context that you will see in Australia. That's not to say that some of the resources and information you find aren't useful. There's certainly some very helpful resources, and I will be referring to some of those in this training. But we always need to be able to bring back what we've learned to the Australian context and what's going to fit within our social and cultural and service contexts. What community development is really a diverse set of values and skills drawing from a lot of professional areas applied with the aim of strengthening communities and community members. So it's really important to understand that it's all about strengthening communities, and we take what we can from other areas to make that happen. So community development fits within a broader service sector which involves other professions such as social work, psychology and counselling, human services, community services more broadly. It can work in very well with other services. It can also be a standalone. What the Community Hubs program definitely aims to do is to link in as much as possible, as much as practicable with other services for the benefit of the people involved in the program. There are a number of values and principles involved in community development. It all stems from a human rights basis. So what are human rights? It's quite broadly a number of principles for what people can and should be able to access in their lives. That includes freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of movement within the country, safety, personal safety, freedom from harm, the ability to have a voice, the ability to connect with others publicly, the ability to advocate for themselves. There's a lot more to human rights, but very broadly, community development aims to support people's human rights. Community development works from a strength basis, which really means that we look for what do people have within themselves that they can use to develop their situation further, to develop themselves further. Obviously, people don't have everything. There are deficits in people's lives. We don't discount that. But the important distinction in community development is we don't just look at what people lack or what people have as shortcomings. That leads to a service environment where professionals seek to provide interventions and prop people up and keep them moving forward. It doesn't necessarily equip people with the skills to do things for themselves. What a strength-based approach aims to do is to work with people to recognise their own strengths and encourage them to utilise their own strengths independently, autonomously, so that they can continue to practice those skills and abilities and develop themselves without necessarily needing external supports into the future. Inclusion is very important in community development. The service shouldn't just be available to a set group of people or a set number of people. If it's broad community development, it should really be open to everybody to be involved in the community. Community participation, so it's about people in the community being involved, getting involved outside of their own personal life, their own family life, in the wider community. Integrity is very important. We need community development practitioners to be honest, to be genuine, to have the right interests in mind, the interests of the community in mind. Diversity is obviously very important in the community hubs context, but more broadly, it's accepting that people are different, accepting that there will be diverse views, diverse perspectives, and how do we go about incorporating all of those in a harmonious way. Equity, so where there are structural disadvantages, where people are missing out on opportunities, what can we do to give people more opportunity to have, I guess, equal opportunity in relation to what other sectors of the community have. And ultimately, community development is relationship-based. It's about connecting people together, connecting with people, building hope and aspiration. That is really at the core of community development. Through relationship, it's the building of trust, the building of safety and security through social connection, introducing new ideas, giving people space to build their hopes and aspirations. We'll talk more about all of these values and principles throughout the practical aspects of the training. So there's quite a broad skill set for community development professionals. We'll go through that in a little bit more detail in the next video. But if you look down this list, there's quite a lot there. This isn't comprehensive either, but the first 5 or so of those, from people skills down to community engagement, these are really skills of the individual, communication skills. What do you bring out with your personality in your role? How do you manage difficult situations and conflict? How do you network and engage with people across a whole range of settings? The next set of skills there, from strategic planning through project management, group facilitation to review and evaluation, these are really the nuts and bolts, practical skills of undertaking community development. How do you go about initiating, running and evaluating projects and services for the community, on behalf of the community and with the community? And then down at the bottom there, some other very practical skills such as risk management, facility management, resource management, just practical day-to-day skills that are important in running a centre, running an environment which supports community development. Where does community development happen? Obviously, it happens in community centres, it happens in community hubs, it happens a lot in schools, depending on what schools are doing in terms of supporting the broader well-being of children and families. A number of community service agencies undertake community development. A number of local governments, a number of councils are active in community development through running community centres or supporting community development initiatives. Local community groups can initiate their own activities. And of course, community development intersects with a wide variety of other services. Community development can be an aspect of social work. It can be an aspect of therapeutic work. And further to that, community development has found its way into other sectors entirely. So you'll see community engagement comes up for consulting with communities around urban renewal. It comes up for corporations who are looking to develop something which is going to impact a community, as a way of trying to figure out how do we do this in a way that doesn't get the community offside. So community development has become a very a broad skill set that we see across a wide variety of sectors. So in our next video, we're going to look at the community development professional. I hope this has been a helpful introduction to community development.